Reverend Bill Cruz, welcome to Western Sydney Unfiltered.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm really honoured to be here.
So I have to say, I'm always a little bit starstruck when I'm in your company, Rev, and I know you'll deny it, but
Yep.
I've been really looking forward to this, and I've been struggling to think about how to introduce you because you are so many things.
Just call me Bill.
All right, but I'm still going to rattle off some others. You're the founder of the Bill Cruz Foundation. You're a passionate supporter of the needy, provider of over 3 million meals to the poor and the homeless, weekly radio show host, much loved Australian, and our very own national living treasure. It goes on and on and on. Okay, so let's jump in, shall we?
Yep.
Okay, so we were talking the other day about the division between the deserving poor and the undeserving poor. And I would really love for you to explain that a little more to me, and perhaps how the pandemic may have blurred the line between the two.
Well, my worry is there were a lot of homeless, unemployed, needy people before the pandemic started, and they hadn't been treated too well over time anyway. And as this pandemic started and so many people, through no fault of their own, lost their jobs, those people are saying, well, we've been paying taxes all our lives, all of this sort of stuff, you know. We are deserving. You've got to help us. And so my worry is we're going to have a division between what a lot of people consider the deserving poor, which are those who have lost their jobs because of the pandemic, and the undeserving poor, that is those people who were unemployed or whatever before the pandemic hit. And I think that's a real issue that governments are going to have to face, because the poor are the poor, full stop. Those in need are in need, full stop. And all of those people need education and all the supports that government can give.
Yeah, and I guess it's not just, you know, the pandemic has also kind of put a magnifying glass on a whole heap of other things. People are working from home, so there's now this digital divide. You know, not everyone has access to the internet at their home, so people can't actually perform their jobs. Or their kids might be at home and they can't do both at the one time.
Or their partners are at home, you know, and they're working in one room and the partner's working in the other.
Exactly.
Get me out of here.
So how do we kind of find a practical solution, or how do we be there and show up for our communities in a way that feels equal?
That is really difficult, because lots of times society tends to structure and class divisions develop. And the good thing about Australia, I still think is that we still want to feel we are an egalitarian society. And no matter how much that gets attacked, that image is still there. And we need to foster that everybody is deserving and everybody needs a chance. And the people in the West for a long time have missed out on all of those chances. And now's the time that people in the West need to stand up and say, oi, we're here too. Yeah. It's not just the eastern suburbs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've really admired that about the work that you do, Rev, because, you know, the dialogue is all about advocating for Greater Western Sydney, but it feels like, you know, you've built this congregation that's borderless, you know, that kind of, you know, goes beyond Ashfield.
But I grew up in the western suburbs.
That's true.
I grew up there. I grew up in St Mary's. I grew up there just after World War II. And there were all these migrants who'd come from all the oppressed nations, you know, and they were living in tin humpies, and they had Hessian bag walls and mud floors and under trees and in cow barns. And these people, all the kids from whatever background, went to the local school, St Mary's Public School. And it was fantastic. We met all these kids. It was just fantastic. And it's left me with that feeling of we're all equal. You know, it doesn't matter if the kid's got shoes or no shoes. We're all the same and we're all struggling, you know, we're all doing our bit. And that, to me, was groundbreaking, because it's stayed with me all my time that people of a different colour or a different ethnic background or even a different religion, we're all the same when it comes to learning our ABCs, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So then I guess, you've been so good at that. You've been good at showing up for people in your community, but for people abroad as well. So how do you kind of prioritise where the welfare goes when you can see that in your own backyard it's much needed, but then you can also see in Thailand it's needed?
Well, John Wesley said, you don't go to the people who need you, you go to the people who need you most. And that's what I tend to do. Just go and look for the people who need you most and be there. And of course, there are lots of organisations that set out to do that, but a lot of them kind of refer to one another, kind of becomes a circular referral system. And there's an awful lot of PR in a lot of this. And so you just go there. What I do is I go there, there's a honeypot, which might be a meal, or it might be a literacy program, it might be something like that. And you see who comes. And you say, what do you need? And they tell you. And then you try and fulfill it.
And what are you hearing from people in Greater Western Sydney or the West that they need? Is there something that is there a voice that's rising above the others? Is there something that you've just seen in your observation of some communities?
In this pandemic, there's been a wind back of a lot of charitable programs, call them that.
Yeah.
You know? And that is my big worry, that there's going to be a kind of a clearinghouse of need, and the West has to be out there putting their case as well. Because, like, what I've found is often you find these really poor kids or people who are brilliant. Brilliant. You know, all they need is a bit of a hand, and off they go. And the difference, and often it's so little. They just need a little bit of support, and off they go. And that's what sustains me so often, that just giving one little person a bit of advice, and they're off and running.
Yeah, you're right. And maybe that's a good segue to talk about, if you're up to it, your partnership with TAFE and the kind of opportunities you're looking to unlock together.
Yeah. Well, like I was talking with Stephen Forby a while ago, and I was saying, with all that's been going on with this pandemic, there must be online some of the best coaching programs in the world free, because every teacher has been teaching kids online. And we were talking about all of that, and I've been watching your dialogues about education, the importance, and how you can give people packets, education packets. And that's the exciting thing, that people in the future will be able to learn the packets they need to do the jobs they want to do. And that's something I've found, like working with the homeless and the unemployed and all of those sorts of people. We've seen all this in bits and pieces over time. The pandemic has kind of squashed it all. And what we need to do is use that experience that we've got with people who have had nothing and spread it out. So we are here in Ashfield, we're doing with TAFE a course where kids or young people get a certificate in hospitality, and also they're working in a coffee shop that we've set up so that they can actually earn some money and then go out and get a job. And we're going to do similar things in the West, particularly with the airport, because the airport will need workers. Now, if we get chronically unemployed people, we can kind of hold their hands while they get the birth certificate, their card, the white cards and all of those sorts of things. But we can also provide the training and the childcare. That's the future. That's the future of the West.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a credit to you both that you've come together to kind of forge this opportunity. I can't wait to see it. I know. I really can't wait. I guess we were talking as well about deployment of expertise and how you can kind of learn from other jurisdictions or regions. So we were so lucky to have you last year come on our study tour of East London.
That was fantastic.
I know, it was the best. And I wonder what you learnt from our time there last year and what, if any, would be more relevant now.
What I've learned is that Australia can export education and widgets, but we're also...
Bill, did you ever think you'd be talking about widgets?
No, but we're also quite way ahead in some areas in provision of health and wellbeing services.
Yeah.
And if you look at England, it's a bit of a mess at the moment. And if you look at the NHS over there, because I do a lot of work with drug and alcohol dependent people in England,
Yep.
and and I was talking with the man who redeveloped King's Cross Railway Station, and I was showing him the programs we've got with health vans and food vans and things like that. And he was saying, we need them here. And I was thinking, well, you'd be ahead of us. No, we're not, he said. So there's a welfare component, whatever that means, that Australia could export overseas as well.
Yeah.
And all too often people forget that because they think about we could export to make money, but we could really export to do good.
Yeah, you're so right. And that is, again, such an awesome segue to kind of ensuring that in these huge developments and kind of the growth of all of our urban cities that we don't lose the spiritual heart of place, which is something that you can't really export or import. It's just inherent in the people and the vibe and the community.
That's right. I was in New York just before all this pandemic happened and went to this big redevelopment. And it's just a big square. So you've got a big square, a big empty square with all these buildings around it. And nobody had thought to put something of value, of human value, in the square. Like in all the Catholic churches and that, they put relics, bones of saints or something. And in the Buddhist temples, they put thousands of years old Buddhist scrolls.
Yeah.
Now, people look at that and they go, oh, there's a meaning here. They can go into these places and find a kind of a meaning for life or something that lifts. It's like looking up at the stars at night.
Yeah.
You look at the stars and you feel part of something great,
Yeah.
And we can do that in a lot of these developments. And I'm sure if we got that bit right, the developments would fill anyway,
Yeah.
And you're not going into some windy, empty square, soulless, that so many places are.
Do you think that's only a kind of a feeling that can happen over time, or do you think that creation of a spiritual place can kind of build as the walls build or build as the infrastructure builds?
You do it like that.
Yeah.
You give it a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose.
Yeah. Okay. So we won't be burying any relics of any significant people unless you're offering.
No, but you know what I mean.
I absolutely know what you mean.
A little bit of something from the heart of Australia. Just something so that people come and they say, yeah, that's us.
Yeah, and you must see that a lot, Rev, in your community when people, don't have a lot of stuff, but they have kind of the richness in their soul. It kind of projects outward.
Often I'll meet with homeless people or really needy people, and really all they've got is their innate dignity.
Yeah.
And people who have got nothing, you think, how can you have that when you've got nothing? Because it's not what you have. It's what you are inside. And this innate dignity, and I've found often the more people collect stuff, the more they lose that innate sense of dignity because they think we've got all this stuff that makes us important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Rev, you have absolutely got that innate sense of dignity and it radiates from you. So I guess on a personal note, before we wind up, how do you stay energized? How do you keep emitting that joy that I'm sure you don't even know you're emitting?
I do a lot of mindfulness meditation, and I've found that when you're really in the now,
Yep.
smelling the smells and hearing the birds and all of that, there's actually a loving aura around that.
Yeah.
And you see at the base of all life, really, is this thing we call love.
Oh, what an awesome ending to our discussion. Thank you so much. You are an absolute inspiration and your contribution has just made the world so much better.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who's listening. Thank you.